Welcome to All Things Financial with Jack Driscoll. Each week, Jack takes on all things you thought were hard to understand about your finances and makes it fun, easy, but most of all interesting. From insurance to the best way to save your money and squeeze the most out of the dollars you put aside for your rainy day. And now you have a friend in the money business. Here's your host, Jack Driscoll.
Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of All Things Financial. I'm doing a current, series of shows on college financial planning, how to pay for college, how to save for college, and we'll end up in some of the student loan debacle that's going on over this series. And I'm doing some research right now on if there are any, or what are some of the options for once you've incurred all these student loans and either have a job, can't get a job, or have too much burden in repaying these student loans. But for today, that's for another show. For today, I'm going to talk about accumulating some money toward future college and some of the options and choices you have. So I've brought some reference materials with me. You'll see me flip through those on the screen for those of you who are watching on TV. And for those of you on the radio, I will credit these sources as I go through there so you could check these yourself and even at a later date. And remember, this is also available on WWNL.com radio live. So if you happen to be listening, you can write it down. The things I wanted to go over with you today were some sources where there are articles that are helpful for you, but also sources where can you put money when you're putting money away toward college. So we talk about the UGMA account, and it's also referred to as the UTMA account. So I'll touch on that today. We talk about the 529 plans, and I'll touch a little more on that because they're more popular. And then we deal with people who invest in non-specific accounts. In other words, they're not allocated for college specifically. They're just savings accounts. So they might be savings accounts at the banks. They might be just regular mutual fund accounts. They might be just annuities that people are saving in. Whatever the vehicle, they're not allocated except that you've personally said to yourselves, this money that's set aside is for Johnny's education. But wherever you're putting it has no clue. It's just a money account for them. So the difference is usually taxes. When you use an account that's allocated and structured for college efficiency, you're normally dealing with the IRS in a savings program, like a 529 plan. Don't forget, savings bonds used to have some college forgiveness on taxes, and I'll go over that a little bit today. The UGMA accounts, you're playing ball with the government as opposed to just doing it yourself. Well, the first one, let's talk about the UGMA and the UTMA account. They're almost talked about interchangeably now, but it's Uniform Gift to Minors account or Uniform Transfer to Minors account. That is anytime someone wants to set money aside on behalf of a minor person. Any minor child is someone designated as less than age 18 because at the age of 18, they've reached age of majority. And if you open an account for someone who's 16 years old, 6 years old, or 6 months old, that account is not of legal age. And because of that, you can't open an account in that child's name because they can't sign for anything. So what you do is you open an account in that child's name, which I just said you can't do, of course, but with one caveat. You establish a custodian over the account, named on the account as the custodian for all of those funds in that account until the child, who's the beneficiary on that account, reaches legal age. In Pennsylvania, it's 18. So when we deal with this, we say, let's set aside Christmas money parents say, do you want to open up a UGMA account or UTMA account? Then you set it aside, you get tax benefits. Do you want to open a 529 account? If you use the funds at the time of college for college, you get tax benefits. Do you want to open a regular mutual fund account, annuity, or a, let's say, CD at a bank? You don't get special tax benefits other than what come with those accounts. CDs, money markets, mutual funds, they all are just as any other account. Annuities happen to be tax deferred in some cases, but otherwise there's no tax benefit for establishing that type of an account specifically for college accumulation savings. Now, I say that not getting too technical. There are different applications with the FAFSA depending on resource assessments. I'm not getting into that today. As a general rule, today I'm getting into 529 plans, UGMA accounts, Series EE savings bonds, and specific college-oriented tax benefits programs. So the UGMA and the UTMA, here's how it works. Money that goes into that account is taxed to the child. Well, there's no money that goes into the account that's taxed to begin with. So when I say money that goes into the account is taxed to the child, what that really means is you put money in, anybody, parents, grandparents, friends, they can find money on the street. Any money that goes into that account, taxes were already paid on that account before they made the gift to the minor child. So we're not going to talk about sophisticated gifts where a grandparent gifts a share of stock. That's not going into a UTMA or UGMA. We're talking cash. So whatever the account was held in, it's been converted to cash. Taxes have been paid. Now we give the money on behalf of the minor child. That's a cash gift. Cash goes into the account. Anything inside that account is taxed to the child at the child's tax rate with the child's Social Security number. Well, no money's taxed when you put money in there that's already been taxed, even if it's been gifted. So we've talked about this gifting before on prior shows. How much can someone gift in a year? Right now, without having to file a gift tax return, and keeping this discussion simple, any one person can gift any other person up to $14,000 a year without having to file a gift tax return. So there's no income tax or gift tax ramifications staying below that limit. We put that money, maybe $500, maybe $50 at Christmas, into this UGMA or UTMA. Now it earns interest for the next year. Now there is a taxable event. The amount of interest earned is typically going to be taxable. It will be 1099 from wherever the custodian on that account invested that money. We'll issue a 1099 on that account. Maybe you made $3. That's a 1099. Parents say, hey, do we have to file that on our tax return? We say, no, you file that on your child. Well, our child doesn't take a tax return. We file a personal exemption on our tax return. In other words, we take our kids as a dependent. Does that mean we take it on ours? No. Because it's in a UGMA or UTMA, that's the child's money, the child's account, it's taxed to the child. And until the child exceeds passive income of around $900 a year, there is no tax ruling or tax filing requirement for those funds. If you have questions on this, give my office a call. A lot of parents use UGMAs and UTMAs as income shifting strategies, and they hire kids in businesses and things like that. We won't get into that today, but I'm sharing with you today so many alternatives many of you aren't even aware existed, let alone how they work. Again, that's why I do this show. I do this show to help share with people all the many resources that are available and strategies that are available that rarely are talked about. So if you don't know they exist, how can you know to research into them? So that's the first step, and that's the old-fashioned way we used to use when we saved money for college. The problem with those accounts were once money saved and then built up and wasn't taxed if it didn't earn too much. At age 14, the tax rules change on that. I won't get into it today. And then at age 18, all the funds instantly become the ownership of, it's always been the ownership of the child. But now that the child has reached age of majority, that's automatically they control that account. So if something went wrong, everybody poured money into that account, the family and relatives, to help for college expenses, and they sacrificed and put money aside, and maybe there's an account worth $50,000 already earmarked toward college, and here your 18-year-old son or daughter or grandson or granddaughter or whoever, niece or nephew, they found a boyfriend or a girlfriend that decided it would be a much better idea to go out and explore themselves and discover themselves and go out to California in a van and go out and stay for about a year out there and live on the beach and then just kind of evaluate life and their purpose in life. Oh my goodness, right? You could see the writing on the wall. And so what you do is you say, well, no, you can't have access to those funds there for college. And in reality, there are no strings attached or that you could put on a UGMA or UTMA account saying these funds can only be used for college. So here they go out, they buy a dune buggy, they go out there, they rent in a shack or whatever, everything that makes you cringe with your money that funded their 1-year exploration and evaluation of themselves. And after the end of the year, they're completely out of money. All their money's gone. They come back and they say, you know what, Dad and Mom, you were right. We're going to college. Well, congratulations, because they're out of your money. Their money's gone. Your money's gone. And now what are you going to do? They've come to their senses. So that was the drawback, and why you don't hear a lot about the UGMA and UTMA. It's because it automatically reverts to them 100%, no handcuffs, and they can do whatever they want with it. So a lot of people don't like that. The 529 plans, for example, are different. The 529 plans, the Coverdell IRAs, I won't get into everything today, but the 529 plans have now become popular as an alternative sometimes to these UTMA accounts because they are earmarked for college. They are only tax-free upon distribution if they are used for college. Now, the UTMA never was tax-free. It was always taxed at the child's rate. They just didn't owe tax until the interest or earnings exceeded certain limits up to age 14, and then different limits after age 14. But they're still taxable. All the gains have been taxed along the way in most cases on a UTMA, but those funds are still taxable every year as long as they stay in the account. The 520, and there's no tax benefit for using them for college. You got your tax benefits all along the way because it was taxed at their lower rate or zero. Well, we get into this and tax planning. It's sophisticated, folks. I mean, I'm not going to kid you. It's a pleasure to financial planners and a benefit to you that these laws are sophisticated, because you don't know about qualified dividends maybe being taxed at a zero rate, but I do know. And you don't know about, except from listening to the show, capital gains in their mutual funds accounts might be taxed at a zero rate even on the parent's return. So there are specific tax strategies here that we might not need to tie the money up in college plans, but you don't know that yourself. Call me. I'll be happy to guide you through the quagmire of some of these strategies, help you see what's more appropriate for yourselves than what you otherwise were planning. But in the meantime, now we jump over to the 529 plan. And the 529 plan, any funds that are set aside there, easy to set up. Again, we go through banks, insurance institutions for the annuities, banks for the CDs, money markets, or the mutual fund industry for mutual funds. The 529s can be almost anywhere. Whatever institutions you choose to open a 529, credit union, whoever it is, then you open an account, and again, you're putting $50 in or whatever. They're very low thresholds to be able to put into these accounts. And then you get into, with the 529s, they're normally domiciled in a particular state. So you'll be confused sometimes by different mutual fund companies saying, this is a Virginia 529, this is a Delaware 529, this is an Alaska 529. And you say, well, I want a Pennsylvania 529. And they say, we only have an Alaska 529. That's going to scare you away. So let me help you with that. Anytime you're dealing with a 529 plan, normally a lot of companies domicile their 529s in one state that are good and eligible for all 50 states. So they're not establishing 50 states and 50 different 529 plans. They cover them all under one umbrella, domicile them in one state, and they're good for all the states. So is this good for Pennsylvania? It's tax-free? Yes, 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 yes. Okay? When you pull out money from a 529 plan, if that money is used for that designated student's qualified college expenses, tuitions, things like that, then those funds and all the growth on what you've pulled out are not taxed. So you look at that and you say no federal income tax on any of those funds that come out because they're used for college. So there's your tax benefit. And you look at the 529 plans, which are very popular today. That's what's going on. And you say, well, what about that 18-year-old that you were talking about that went out to college? Don't I have the same problem? Number one, no, you don't, because it's held in a 529 plan, not held in their individual UTMA or their own individual account. So it's still an A529 plan, dedicated and earmarked for college. If that child, and they don't own that account, they're the named recipient or beneficiary. If that child grows up at age 18 and goes out to explore themselves in California, those accounts and all those funds, you can switch who you name on those accounts for the benefit of. It could be the next child up. It could be the second one. It's not the oldest child, it's the second child, the third child, a niece, a nephew, someone even unrelated. You can change names on those, still have them earmarked for when that person then needs them for college. They could still be tax-free distributions, and you get the tax benefits for being used as college expenses. So they're much more flexible. They're specifically designed as a college savings vehicle. So that's the 529 plan. Well, I wanted to touch on something else that many people are becoming aware of and not specifically aware of. In today's show, I just want to touch on some of these, and that is the Pennsylvania plan. There's a U-Promise plan. There's prepaid tuition plans. There are SAGE tuition reward plan. So I brought some resources. I promised you I'd share some resources in today's show. So here are a couple of them. The first one is savingforcollege.com, which I have found as a good resource. And there are many articles on there. One of the articles I came across, and you could search these, was, does your state's prepaid tuition plan make sense? So they help you in the article go through and evaluate all of the different states' prepaid tuition plans. If you opened a plan at the child being age 1 versus the child being age 10, do they make sense? So there's one article for you. Another one, there are tuition rewards. And I also want to bring up, I've read articles, and I'll touch on this in other shows probably, but I've read articles on college using your credit card's rewards points to help pay for college. You know, we wouldn't think about that, and I don't want to promote that, but I do want to bring up that it is possible. I've read articles on that, and hey, you know, it can go so far. I read another article last week that said You know the Chewbacca mom? She just got an offer from a college. I don't have the I do have the article with me, but it's buried deep in here, so I won't take all the time to dig that back out again. But I do have the article on here on college offered a 4-year degree to her family. So I thought, well, there's an idea. You go out and buy that Chewbacca face mask, the talking Chewbacca mask, and bingo, you've got 4 years worth of college paid for. How easy can it get? So, hey, you never know, right? Back to the rest of us who aren't so creative, and the YouTube that we put up there didn't go viral. I don't know why, but that's the way it is. We're back to the grind. So we have Sage Tuition Awards, and that is on, I found this when I went out to tuitionrewards.com. So you can go out to that site and look at some tuition rewards programs that are available. And then we get into uPromise, which is fairly common. You don't hear a lot about this, but you do hear some about this. And uPromise is basically when you go to participating retailers, a small portion of your purchase might be allocated into a uPromise account for a designated student. So your family members might say, hey, go here, go there, do this, do that to help, because a portion of your sale, make sure to mention us on the uPromise account, and that might help. So there is a website to find out more about that, and that is upromise.com. That's U, the letter U, like umbrella, upromise.com. And then we get to the Pennsylvania 529 college savings plans. Pennsylvania has a 529 plan. So the Pennsylvania's 529 plan has 2 ways to save. And I'll share the website with you, but the one is what they call the Guaranteed Savings Plan. The other is what they call the Investment Plan. One has market risk, one avoids market risk. It stays out of the markets. So one has guaranteed rates of interest, and the other one you're playing with the markets, and they use Vanguard funds in there. So beware on that. You'll know where you fit. But the website is pa529.com. And they go through a number of different things. They even have a chart on there for the guaranteed rates. What are the guaranteed rates on the 529 plan? So I printed that, and I'll go through that with you in another show. I'm showing it on TV, but actually, that is actually a 2015 to 16, the latest rates that they have on Guaranteed Savings Plans Credit Rate Schedule is what they call it. And I also have a 2012 to 13 Guaranteed Savings Plan Credit Rate Schedule. You'll see the numbers are different. And so it's good to be able to compare on the website, hey, how much have these rates changed from even just a couple years? Well, we're out of time for today. I wanted to thank you for tuning in again to another edition of All Things Financial, as always, and we'll be back again next week.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through SagePoint Financial Inc., member FINRA SIPC, and registered investment advisor. Insurance services offered through Driscoll Insurance and Financial Services Inc., which is not affiliated with SagePoint Financial Inc.